What is up, Brah? So a month or so ago, I uploaded a returning to Siege video with the last few years of changes, and at the end I put some beginner tricks and got some good feedback, so I decided to go back, add a bunch of new ones, and make this big list of good things to remember as a beginner or someone that's returning to Siege. Honestly, even me as an active player, there's still things in here that even I needed reminders of, so I think even veteran players are gonna find some useful things in here, even though a lot of them are gonna be simple, especially like the Wallhack setting that you're gonna see in just a couple. Anyways, let's get into the first one. The first thing that you should keep in mind when playing Rainbow Six Siege is that the sun literally works in this game, okay? So this example is here on Clubhouse. The sun is kind of in this northeast corner, and if you approach the door from the north side, you can see that defenders playing Catwalk can actually anticipate you peeking it. When the attacker is peeking from the south side, I actually don't see a shadow. Now, this has been pretty relevant in the game, and I think people started noticing this most back in like year 3, year 4, and shadows impact every single map in the game. Like here's another spot from 4 years ago where you can look at this sliver of light on a door and then use it to pre-fire people that are holding an angle on skylight. It's crazy, and it's definitely something you got to keep in mind. Kino also exposed a secret wallhack setting by putting your LOD on low. For example, if there's someone sitting on the top of the red hatch on bank and you are outside open area or printer window un-ADS'd, you can see through the panel and into the top of red hatch. The next thing you should be keeping in mind in Siege is to just have better crosshair placement. There's no point to ever walk around and be staring at the floor. Try to always keep your crosshairs in head level where somebody could be peeking you. A really good way to remember this is that if you're looking at a reinforced door, there are 2 buckles. That second buckle is always standing head height of a Rainbow Six Siege operator. You can use this general rule of thumb to basically just learn the muscle memory and always keep this crosshair placement, unless of course you know they're crouching or prone. These are simple. I got a bunch of quick Kapkan spots I'm gonna show you for free kills, and there's not much else to say about it. Kapkan is a great op for new players and also veteran players, and he has a great gun. Now, I got 6 busted Kapkan spots that I'm gonna show you here, and before they finish playing, I'm going to quickly tell you about the sponsor of this video, Turtle Beach. You guys already know I've been partnered with Rocket and Turtle Beach for over 2 years now, and Rocket is now officially part of Turtle Beach. Yes, Turtle Beach now has everything from controllers for any console, headsets for any system, and now an upgraded PC gear lineup. They still have my go-to keyboard, the Vulcan 2 TKL Pro, and the Burst 2 Air mouse, but with some nice changes. Their new headset is called the Atlas Air, which is their new open back headset, which I really like because then I can hear things going on around me, which is really helpful for anyone with kids or things going on around the house while they're gaming. This new Turtle Beach gear lineup is now available for pre-order, and if you'd like to check it out, I have the easy access link down below, and don't forget to use code BRAH to save an extra 10% across all items. And hey, look at there. I finished just in time for you to see the most busted Kapkan spot in all of Rainbow Six Siege. It's on Coastline, right here in reception. This next one is that you should know that mute jammers are a circle radius. If somebody is mute jamming a wall and you have the option, you can actually rappel up and place a fuse, a thermite charge, or any other gadget. Like you could throw an ace charge up at the top of the wall, and it will actually be out of that mute jammer radius. Unlike when it's electrified, the electricity does cover the whole wall, but mute jammers, because they're that circle radius, part of that is going down through the floor and then only partway up the reinforced wall. Next up is, did you know that if the diffuser is dropped, the icon on the bomb chassis will actually turn black with a yellow perimeter and yellow text? Say you're in like a 2v3 and you notice that the icon on the bomb chassis is black. You gotta go and make sure you're holding that diffuser before you push them, otherwise you're gonna be forced to just run around and play TDM. Also, this does not affect you if you are in the defender POV. This next one is something you can do to pretty much instantly get better, or at least get more intel for you and your team, and it's basically do not drive your drone straight into sight, spot the bomb, and then get your drone taken out. There's 0 point for you to do that. Especially when you're first starting again, you should do one of 2 things. Either drive your drone and then just place it in a flank watch position that's well hidden, or 2, just drive it straight to where you chose to spawn and pick it up when you spawn. Up next is you should increase your field of view slider much more. Do not play on 60 FOV. There is an inherent advantage to just having a higher FOV, and you probably already do this because this is in a lot of FPS games, but I still see a lot of people playing on 60. Just don't do that. You don't need to go all the way up to 90, but don't play on 60. A lot of people like to melee walls and then just kind of look through them. It is so obvious though. So when you're defending, if you do decide to use a melee hole, at least put a few. That way it'll force people to play the lottery and shoot you. You have a much better chance of survival. And it is more intimidating for attackers to come in. If attackers just see a single bullet hole, you are going to get pre-fired to the next dimension. Up next is do not plant on a soft hatch. If you plant on a soft hatch, a defender doesn't even need to defuse the bomb. All the defender needs to do is break the hatch, and because the diffuser leaves the planting area, the attackers are gonna lose. And honestly, this doesn't happen too often, but if it does, it's one of the biggest amateur mistakes, and now you don't need to worry about doing that. Up next, you should be breaking the glass on windows. When you break the glass on windows, you are going to be able to hear things better, whether they're repelling or footsteps outside. The debris will fall on the inside and you will know for sure that it's broken. The other thing you should be doing is putting a couple holes. You don't need to break the wall as much as I did in this clip. You just put a couple holes in soft walls before you reinforce, especially if you're bandit tricking or mute tricking, because that's going to allow you to hear the placement of the thermite charge or charges much better. If you're recently coming back to Siege, then a great quality of life change that has been added to the game is that you can now turn screen shake off. And so this next tip is I highly recommend that you turn screen shake off. Whether you're just simply using breach charges or rushing in with Ash, this is going to help you keep a much more steady crosshair placement, and it just feels so much smoother and easier to control in game. The next cool setting that you should know about and consider using is to turn your drone deployment on advanced. When you have it on advanced, you are going to be able to throw your drone and then press the drone button again to go on. This is going to allow you to like rappel up, throw a drone, rappel down without getting stuck, and then you won't be caught with your pants down. Say you are like droning outside and then somebody immediately jumps out. To automatically jump on your drone just with a single button, that feeling sucks. So consider using advanced, and then you can even do cooler tricks like, you know, throwing a drone at the door, forcing a defender's crosshair placement to go to the drone to take it out, and then you just swing it instead. The next cool thing that you should know in Rainbow Six Siege is anytime you have horizontal or straight line wood on the floor, the metal support beams underneath are going to be going in the opposite direction. I know obviously this makes sense, it's realistic, but just knowing this will help you create those lines of sight that might be a little bit more tricky, and it makes it easier to think about. Say you're just going to shoot a door below or hold an angle below or hold a 3-4 angle. One of my favorite 3-4 angles is this one here on Oregon. It goes all the way from Armory down to Laundry Stairs. It's nuts, and just knowing this generally will help you discover a lot more as you play the game. Even if you don't play Siege, I feel like you might know this already, but basically just never reinforce between sites. You're generally going to have a default rotate on each site in between. Sometimes you have extensions on the exterior walls to hold angles and lines of sight further, but overall, do not just reinforce between sites. Say you're an attacker, you drone out sight and you see that something's completely cut off. A lot of times that means defenders only have one way to get back in. It makes it funneling so easy. You're going to get 300 and you're going to die. Up next is, unlike a lot of other FPS games, in Siege, lasers are visible to both sides. Both defenders and attackers are going to be able to see your laser. Right now, I can see the laser on the window. It makes for a really easy pre-fire. I know somebody's standing 2 feet away from the door. So anytime you're playing like shotguns especially, this is what is going to impact the most. Just keep your crosshair a little bit on the side. Don't put your dot where an attacker is coming from. Up next, you need to be taking out default cams. Look at this game that I played on Clubhouse recently. This guy is droning outside 10 feet away from a default cam. On the opposite side of the map, I see exactly where he enters from. I make those comms. I don't even play this game. I'm standing in the bottom of garage and we win flawlessly 5-0. I think only a couple cams got taken out this entire time. Like this one here in bar, I can watch Cav interrogate this dude. Just shoot default cams. And that one goes into our next tip perfectly. A lot of times you can shoot every single outside default from within like a 10-foot radius on the roof. So as you play, kind of take notes where outside default cams are, and you can also make one of your default plays, you know, rappel to a roof and take out all the default outside cams. That's really helpful. This next tip also related to default cams, and you're gonna see me get one kill and then get slammed. And instead of just going and like spectating a teammate, jumping on TikTok, I know it can be tempting, you should really just jump on the default cams and cycle through them. You know, in this day and age of Siege, a lot of times intel and cameras are being left alone. Whether it's just a flank watch on the opposite side, like I'm watching from mute here, or an outside default cam that literally makes you win the round flawlessly. Up next is look at drone holes as alternative methods. They're not just for drones. You can throw claymores in here, stuns in here, Zophias in here, grenades, all types of stuff. One of my favorite is to place claymores, especially because a lot of times the claymores cut off paths right next to sight. You're gonna get a lot of free kills, and I still don't see a ton of people doing this. The next tip is sprinting is overrated. There's definitely a time and a place for it, don't get me wrong, but one of the #1 ways I see new players dying is they just sprint into somebody's line of sight and get slammed. You have a decent amount of time in Siege. Unless you're just holding an angle outside for the first 2 minutes, you don't really ever need to sprint. This next tip is that each time you die, instead of punching your monitor or keyboard, try to think of what you could have done differently that would have made you come out of that situation alive or on top with the kill. This has been one of my #1 tips in any game I play, all the way back from like when I used to play Halo 3 at a really high level. And especially in a game like Siege, this has been incredibly helpful. Of course, there are going to be those deaths that are just like crazy frustrating. Like, dude, that dude parkoured on top of a Christmas tree and slammed me, you know, but the majority of the time, instead of just immediately going to an excuse, you can literally get better with every single death if you could just kind of change that mentality. The next tip is to try night mode audio, especially if you feel like you are having trouble hearing footsteps. Now, a lot of people do prefer the hi-fi mode, which is the most dynamic and least compressed. Night mode is the least dynamic and most compressed, which means it makes all the sounds intelligible even at low volumes. Whereas hi-fi, it provides the most clarity between the different sounds. Just take a look and listen to the footstep sounds on night mode. Next tip that you need to do is don't forget to equip drone skins. Anything that has green painted on it is really good for hiding drones in bushes, and anything like the brown drones are crazy good for maps like Oregon and Clubhouse. The difference between the Fable Shapings drone skin and default is pretty big, but even if you don't have that specific drone skin, there is one that is really good on Clubhouse. It's called Stereo on the Go, and it's in the current battle pass. This next one, definitely for newer players, don't ever assume you're safe. There are truly just wild parkours and wild flanks that exist in this game. This one is just an example. There's tons of videos out there with more, but like you can literally run off of balconies, catch ladders. It's not something that new players realize can actually happen in this like hardcore FPS. Up next is that you should play what is needed. Now, this is definitely more so when you're solo queuing. If you notice you're on a team with 20 ashes and nobody wants to do anything else, maybe try playing the hard breach, maybe try playing the Thatcher. It actually makes a big difference, even if you're the only one making those moves. Now, if you're a returning player, you know that you used to be able to cook grenades, but for new players and people coming back after a while, now you can no longer cook grenades, so it makes throwing nades onto ceilings a lot harder. But most floors and ceilings are actually 2 layers, and you can still get a grenade in between those layers to kill people above. So don't forget about this really sneaky tactic. As you play Siege and as you get to learn the maps better, you are going to know the common places. Rainbow Six Siege gives you a lot of ammo, and if you have even a tiny inkling that somebody might be in a certain spot, you should be pre-firing it. If I just swing and then just to see if somebody's there, he's most likely going to win that fight. This one, just a general tip that you need to be doing with Mira. Mira is a good operator once you do learn some site setups, but one thing you should be doing that a lot of players overlook is you need to be breaking the perimeter of the soft wall around the other side of the Mira. Just to look at, before I couldn't even see the bottom of the bomb chassis, now you can see like an extra 2 feet. It's crazy. Do this on both the sides and below. If there's a hatch above, you could also do it above. One thing that a lot of players overlook, and even veteran players, is that Kapkans actually make a noise. There's a low rumble to it. Just listen to this. Up next, a tip for my absolute favorite beginner op, Lesion. He's useful literally across all ranks, easy to learn, and easy to get really creative with as you learn the game. Credit to this spot does go out to Fireball, but did you know that on Clubhouse you can actually fit a bunch of goo mines underneath this desk, and this Logi hatch is one of the most entered hatches from attackers. They can't see it from above, and as soon as they drop, they're gonna get a bunch of poison needles in them, and if they're low health, you could even get a kill. Worst case scenario, you're gonna get a sound cue and a good advantage. Anyways, Brah fam, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. I'll see you guys all very soon in the next video. I love you all. Peace.